Good morning and welcome to this community of inspiration and challenge, of memory and hope. What is it when we worship, when we gather as you use? Rather than adoration of a deity, we gather to practice reverence for life. We gather weary and uplifted, despairing and hopeful, broken and yet still whole and fully loved. We make our time and space together holy with our attention and our intentions, when we trust that when we gather, our spirits will receive what we need. Let us gather now and bring our attention to this space, physically and virtually, and light our chalice with these words from my colleague, Kim Mason. Once upon a time, chemists believed that they could transform lead into gold or death into life. We laugh, but are we not also in this business of alchemy, turning loneliness into connection, pain into comfort, anger into solidarity, and faith into action? The subtle magic of church combines love with justice, creates hope out of fear, and transforms individuals into community. Here we engage in a holy alchemy, finding beauty in the ordinary and life in the present. Come, let us, like this wick and oil, be transformed together. Our opening hymn this morning is number 128 in the gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life. Will you please rise in body or in spirit, and let's sing together.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Reverend Beth Monholland. My pronouns are she, hers, and I have the deep honor of serving this congregation as the lead minister alongside our associate minister, Reverend Sally Fritchie. We are people of many ages, histories, genders, bodies, and identities, and we are united in our shared commitment to our mission, which is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. Please look around at the color-coded lanyards of your neighbors and be aware and respectful of others' needs and boundaries. As I mentioned, we are a congregation of many ages, which means that we welcome and embrace all the noises and little disruptions that kids might bring into a morning service. And as always, kids of all ages are welcome to grab a coloring packet, which are just outside the entryway door, just in case you need to keep your hands busy this morning. And if for any reason during the service you feel the need to stretch your legs or you just want a little more room to move around, please feel free to enjoy the audio of the service in our fellowship hall. Our Children's RE program is on just a short hiatus for this summer, so children and families are welcome to stay here in the sanctuary for the entirety of our time together, although our nursery is available for kids, I can't remember, 6, 7 and under, Natalie? 5, 6, I tell you, if you have a little kid and they want to play, just take them to the nursery, it'll be fine. And if you are a visitor today, I bid you a special welcome and invite you to fill out a visitor's card so that we can stay connected. And if you're joining us via our live stream, welcome. Please say hello in the YouTube chat and know that you too are welcome here this morning. And now I want to invite you to bid each other welcome by turning to your neighbor and saying hello. So just for a moment, I invite you to do that. I'll ring our little chimes to get us started, and I'll ring them again when it's time for us to recenter. So say hello to someone, tell them how happy you are to see them on this bright June morning. Well done, everyone. Please keep that energy going. After the service, everyone's invited for kinship time in our fellowship hall. But thank you for those greetings and for bidding each other welcome. And now I would like you to also bid welcome to our guest minister today, Reverend Rebecca Gant. She is our closest UU neighbor, serving the Bloomington-Normal, Illinois UU Church. She grew up in South Central Kansas and moved to Lawrence, Kansas to go to college, and that's where she stayed. She married Joe in '91, and they raised 2 fabulous, kind, smart daughters. Yeah. And she began her journey to become a UU minister in 2017 after feeling the pull for more than a decade. She loves her calling to parish ministry, where she can help things like people, love, and justice grow. In her free time, she enjoys laughing with friends, hiking in the woods, making things from yarn or paper, and hosting impromptu patio parties. I can also tell you she has been a fabulous colleague for me as someone new to this area and new into ministry, and we have the joy of serving on the executive board of our local UUMA chapter, and we are honored to have her with us today. Please welcome Reverend Rebecca. Each week when we gather, we practice spiritual generosity by making space for our joys and sorrows. We know that whenever we gather together, we are bringing our whole lives with us, and this is a time for us to, for a moment, lay those things down. We begin this practice with an embodied ritual of singing our blessing song, and today you'll be invited to come forward, either here to the front chalice or to the small table in the center. It's always weird to say the back when there's so many people behind it, the center back of the room. There are bowls of water and there are stones for your sorrows and petals for your joys. So during the song, if you are moved, you are welcome to drop a petal and a stone into that water. We will also make space later in the service for spoken joys and sorrows. So if there is something you would like shared aloud today, please fill out a joy and sorrow card. You'll find them in your pew rack. Or if you're joining us online or you're here in the room and are more comfortable with electronic communication, you can send an email to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. We trust that this act of sharing lightens our burdens and increases our joys, even if just for this 1 hour. I invite you to come forward now as we sing May the Longtime Sun. Building community comes in many forms, and this is one of them. And it also comes in all the ways that we have to connect both within and beyond these walls each week. I invite you to subscribe to and read. Do you like my little joke about that? Read our weekly e-news to stay up to date on all of the activities offered through our REE program and our social action councils and our congregational life. This morning, I want to highlight just a few things. Our annual service auction on May 4th was a huge success. Thank you to every single person who planned and volunteered and donated and bid to make that possible. And there are still a few items available. So yay, you can still contribute. Please check those out. You'll see a link about it in the e-news this week. There are some fabulous things to beautify your life, to build community, and to keep contributing to the operations of the church. Compassion and Choices is a movement that seeks to bring patient-centered options for end-of-life decisions. So everyone is welcome to attend a short documentary and discussion on June 10th at 7 p.m. in our fellowship hall to learn more about this important movement. And next Sunday will be a Pride service here. It's Pride Month all month long. Let's be honest, it's Pride Year all year in our hearts. But we will have some of our congregants are going to share reflections. We're going to have music. And so I invite you all to please be sure to be here next week to celebrate Pride. So please read more details about these and other events in our e-news. And each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass our plate and share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. Our shared offering partner for June is Uniting Pride of Champaign County, and we have a short video highlighting their work. At least I hope we do.
Uniting Pride was founded in 2009 as a 501c3 nonprofit organization to advocate for the equality, wellness, and visibility of the LGBTQ+ community in Champaign County. UP exists to create a community where all who identify as sexual or gender minorities can live full, healthy, and vibrant lives. We have a few main areas of work: support and social groups, serving everyone from our littlest littles up through our elders. We offer free LGBTQ+ cultural competency training for anyone willing to have us, from schools to healthcare to private businesses to faith groups to community groups and more. An area of growth for us is around advocacy. Any organization like ours always works to put ourselves out of business. Our goal is that someday there's no more need because the world is affirming and safe for everyone. Sadly, things are going the opposite direction. And lastly, our events and programs. We produce the annual Pride Fest in the fall with our signature parade and fair, but we've also added a lot more. From social to educational to adult to youth and family, we're striving to create more safe and affirming socialization and community. Of course, all this takes resources to do. Uniting Pride is on an aggressive growth plan, again, sadly, due to increased need. We've reached our max capacity based on the staff, funding, and resources we currently have, and yet there is so much more we could do if we had what we needed to do it. So if you're lucky enough to be in a position to give, we thank you for helping us. And now I leave you with a look back on last year's Pride Fest to remind us what this work is really about.
You give me, 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 you give me everything I need. You give me everything I need. You give me everything I need.
It is Pride Fest. Many Pride Fests are happening all over the place because, of course, it's June. In Milwaukee, where I lived for 35 years, 3 days of Pride just ended last night, and the Pride Parade is this morning. And I always am a little bittersweet when I'm not there for it, but I'm so happy to be here with you and to be sharing our plate today with Uniting Pride of Champaign County. You can give by text or through our online portal on our website, and if you are here in the sanctuary, our basket will shortly be passed. You can give with cash, you can make out a check to UUCUC, and know that half of what you give goes towards sustaining the work of this church, and the other half today will go directly toward Uniting Pride. I invite you to give whatever is generous for you, and know that anything you contribute will be gratefully received. This is also the time to submit a joy and sorrow card or to send an email. If you didn't, you can pass those to our ushers, and we will read those after our offering, which will now be gratefully received. So our generosity comes in many forms, and I thank you for your financial generosity this morning and for the spiritual generosity. Thank you, Shimon. In making space for our joys and sorrows. If you have a card still to pass, you are free to bring it up to me, and I will share with you what our community wishes to be shared aloud this morning. A joy from Katie McDowell, who says she is so happy to be home from 6 weeks of sabbatical travels in Europe. We live in such a beautiful green community of sweet-hearted people. We do indeed. A joy from Claudia and David Gross, who on June 11th will be celebrating their 58th wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary. We're so happy you're both here. Joys and some sorrows from Kimberly Cronick. Kim asks that we pray for her baby brother, Maddie, who will undergo complicated spine surgery on Tuesday. May it all go well. Kim also asks for prayers for the Palestinians who are losing their lives daily and prayers for the returned Israeli hostages. And then a joy for the contra dancing community in CU and the fun that they make together. From Autumn Haskins, who is one of our brand newest members and also our communication coordinator. Autumn says that she is sad to be missing service today and all of our smiling faces, but she is taking a much needed and long delayed vacation and making new friends. Y'all, she's at a writers group right now. I'm so jealous. And then from here in the room, Doug Jones shares a joy that General Assembly is upon us. It is. I'm so excited. It's all online this year, June 20th to the 24th, Thursday through Sunday. So please look for GA24 watch parties at UUCUC. And one final joy from Doug, it is his daughter Sarah's birthday. Happy birthday to Sarah. And then from Priscilla Crone, a joy. Joy for laughter, a healing medicine, and a tool for facing reality at times. May we all laugh often. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for holding space for our joys and sorrows today, and for all the ways that you hold space in this community each and every day. I give thanks for you as we give thanks for each other.
We have a short reading here by Rainn Wilson, who is probably familiar to many of you. He has appeared on television and film over a number of years and is a master of comic theater. I will read a quote from a book that he is leaving behind. He has just finished a memoir, quoted as we can see in your programs, entitled Soul Boom. Again, that will be a phrase familiar to a number of you, I think. So he is a comic with a comic spirit, but more than that, and be prepared to brace yourself a little bit. He gives a list. What I will give you is a list of things that he sees that his father has left behind, and that list is in what he is leaving behind. So let me start. My father certainly left behind his 78.5-year-old body on that table near the mortician's kitchen. He left behind a few hundred fantastic abstract paintings, a collection of rare books, his truck, and various drafts of novels and essays, a closet full of old man clothes, a toothbrush. He also left behind hundreds who loved him and were deeply touched by his spirit, life, service, and art.
Our music today is something we're going to sing together. I'm going to teach it to you. It's easy, don't worry. It's called May the Life I Lead, and it was written by Sullivan Pugh and recorded by several different gospel groups in the, I think, 50s and 60s mostly. It's called May the Life I Lead. I think we have lyrics. Yep, okay. So it's a kind of a slow gospel. You can imagine the backup singers might be doing this. So here's how it goes. I'll sing a line and you sing it back to me, okay? May the life I lead speak for me. Sing that back. May the life I lead speak for me. May the life I lead speak for me. Now you. May the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. May the life I lead speak for me. Now sing that. May the life I lead speak for me. Let's try it all the way through. May the life I lead speak for me. This one goes up a little bit. May the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. May the life I lead speak for me. The next verse is May the friends I have. May the friends I have speak for me. You can hear the harmony, sing it. May the friends I have speak for me. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. May the friends I have speak for me. Okay, it sounds pretty good, but it would sound better if, for those of you for whom standing is an option, if you could let your instrument stretch out a little bit. So if you're comfortable standing, and if you want to do the side step with me, that's fine. Are we ready? May the let's do the May the work I do. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. May the work I do speak for me. May the work I do speak for me. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. May the work I do speak for me. May the love I share. May the love I share speak for me. May the love I share speak for me. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. May the love I share speak for me. All right, last time through. May the life I lead speak for me. May the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of my road and I lay down my heavy load. May the life I lead speak for me. One more time on the last line. May the life I lead speak for me. One more time with heart. May the life I lead speak for me. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to do a reading Fully Alive by Donna Markova. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes on to the next as a bloom, and that which came to me as a bloom goes on as fruit.
Will you take a big breath with me? Earlier this morning, we heard from Rainn Wilson the things that his father took with him when he died and what he left behind. He described the qualities that made his dad who he was, his humor and wisdom and gentleness. These qualities, specific to his father, were what he took with him after his death. Rainn also described the physical things he left behind, like his closet full of old man clothes, he called them, and his paintings. But what is more interesting are the intangible items, the impact of his father's life on the hundreds of people who, Rainn writes, loved him and were deeply touched by his spirit, life, service, and art. If someone were to write about you after you died the way that Rainn Wilson wrote about his father, what do you think they would write? What would they say are the qualities that you took with you, and what would they say you left behind? Now, we know there's stuff that we would leave behind, but what about those intangibles? Do you think that what you hope they would say would be the same as what they would say? And if not, how might you live differently to make your hoped-for tribute match what you suspect that your loved ones might write? Some people, some among us even, might be known for the grand acts that their life circumstances afforded. Perhaps leaving enough money behind to have a program or a building or a foundation or a professorship named after them. But most of the rest of us will leave behind more modest legacies, like those Robert Wilson left. Items we've created, the love we've shared, the kindnesses we've shown. And if we're honest, our legacies might also include things that we would prefer to not think about, times that we've acted in a way that hurt people, or when we failed to act, and as a result, people were hurt by our inaction. And just to push you a bit, what if we widen the lens a little bit beyond individual legacy to this congregation's legacy? If this congregation disappeared, who outside of these walls might miss it? And what would they say this congregation left behind? An even wider lens, what would they say that Unitarian Universalists have left behind were we to disappear? Have we acted in a way to be proud? Or have we failed to act in a way that caused or perpetuated harm? Considering what we will leave behind raises the question of what legacies also that we have inherited, what legacies have come to us. What's our starting place? Each person or organization does not spring fully formed from nothing. So if you think about it on an individual level, what were you taught by your family, your school or friend groups, and the wider society? What are the stories you learned about who you are and your place in the world? And how have those stories formed you into the person you are now? because these stories are part of our legacies. A good friend of mine works for an organization in Topeka, Kansas, called the Family Peace Initiative. The mission of this organization is to end family violence, period. One of the Family Peace Initiative's programs is a batterers intervention program. It's offered in prisons and in the wider community. Some of the people who attend have been convicted of abuse and have a court order that says they must. But others attend who are seeking a change in their behavior, and they attend voluntarily. In their trainings, the Family Peace Initiative uses a metaphor that I find very, very powerful, and it's called the river of cruelty. The idea is that cruelty flows like a river from one place to another, from one person to another, and that all of us have been in that river at some point in our lives, and some of us get stuck in that river. Those of us who have been treated cruelly, if we don't heal that hurt and thereby move out of the river, often go on to pass the cruelty to others. The Family Peace Initiative's program invites participants to do two things. First is for everyone in the room, the participants, the facilitators, all. First is to name and claim responsibility for cruelty they have perpetuated. The second part is for all present to take complete responsibility for beginning to heal that cruelty, what happened to them, reminding themselves that it wasn't their fault. They didn't deserve it. It was just something that was done to them or happened to them. The philosophy is that if we don't take responsibility for both the cruelty we perpetuate in the world and for the healing, the cruelty that has happened to us, then we continue passing it on from person to person, from generation to generation, as a legacy. I have been thinking a lot about legacy, what I've inherited, and the ways that I hope to heal and change that legacy so that I don't pass on some of that bad stuff. Especially the legacy that has come to me as a white person in the United States in 2024. This past April, I was lucky enough to go on a trip in the South with folks from faith communities in Bloomington-Normal to all kinds of civil rights sites. As part of the preparation for that trip, we read together and discussed the book, The 1619 Project, A New Origin Story. I see nods, some of you are familiar with this book. It's powerful. It's a collection of poetry and essays that first appeared in a previous form in the New York Times Magazine. The topic is the history and the impact, systemically, culturally, and societally, of chattel slavery in the United States. The book takes its name from the year 1619, which was 1 year before the Mayflower landed, but it's when the first ship carrying people who had been captured and enslaved arrived on the shores of what is now the United States. Of course, on a certain level, before preparing for this trip, I had been aware of the history of the system of enslavement in our country and the continuing echoes of that in our national psyche and our systems of governance, policing, and incarceration and housing, etc. But what the book kept bringing home to me is how I, as a white person, have been sheltered on purpose from the reality and the brutality of these topics. One tiny example, in some of the essays in the book, writers who talk about the South in the 1850s do not use the word plantation to describe this agricultural operation that held enslaved people, but instead use the word forced labor camp. This is not what my history textbooks said. They used the word plantation, and I could imagine a place with beautiful flowers, with crops growing. What I was taught, the violence of that system of slavery was hidden in euphemism. Each time I encounter the more reality-based, more visceral language, I am reminded of how whiteness seeks to insulate itself from the ugly realities of racism and how it is an inseparable part of our history and how much it still affects our present day. Nicole Hannah-Jones, who's the editor of the 1619 Project, writes in her essay that's titled Justice, quote, Origin stories function to a degree as myths designed to create a shared sense of history and purpose. Nations simplify these narratives in order to unify and glorify, and these origin stories serve to illuminate how a society wants to see itself and how it doesn't. The origin story of the United States that we tell ourselves through textbooks, monuments, and public histories portrays an intrepid, freedom-loving people who rebelled against an oppressive monarchy, who won their independence, tamed the West, advanced an exceptional nation based on the radical ideals of self-governance and equality, and heroically fought a civil war to end slavery and preserve that nation. It's a beautiful myth, yes? That myth that she describes is the origin story I was taught, and I suspect many of you were taught as well. It shields me from the unimaginable cruelty and inhumanity in the system of human bondage. It soft pedals what sounds now nonsensical to my ear, the idea that it's possible for one human to own another, that some people do not contain the spark of the divine or are not created in the image of love, do not deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, and to be allowed their bodily and spiritual autonomy. It's unimaginable when you hear the reality. It's nonsensical, and it's purposefully obscured, most of us. Our second reading this morning talks about things coming to us as a seed or as a flower, and the reading includes the assumption that we can or will nurture this seed or flower into its next stage, which is flower or fruit. Some seeds or flowers that have come to us as an inheritance help serve the greater good as they are nurtured. Seeds of kindness that grow into flowers of action to help people. Flowers of trust that grow into the fruit of relationships. But other inheritances are more like the seeds or flowers of a poisonous plant. Once inherited, it is up to us whether we will actively nurture them, ignore them, or work to eradicate them. You and I have received the poisonous seeds and flowers of the legacy of slavery and xenophobia and transphobia and sexism and ableism and other oppressions, as well as the idea that humans are somehow separate from this earth, so that our job is to dominate it instead of working to preserve it, and by that preserving us. Some of our ancestors did what they could to nurture those toxic ideas and pass them on to us. Some of our ancestors worked to eradicate them from the garden, and still others, generally those with some privilege, just found it more convenient to ignore the poisonous garden that was growing around them. We have a choice. We must make a choice. There's no way around it, because not choosing is also a choice. Because as any gardener will tell you, if you do not actively choose your response and instead ignore issues, the unwanted plants, the weeds, will take over. I've heard jokingly that Unitarian Universalists referred to as the people of the Word. Now, it's used to refer to people who revere their faith's scripture, but this for us is a bit of a visual joke, because the Word is not capitalized. It's not like the Bible or the Quran, but instead a lowercase w on that word. The joke is that we like our words. We like to talk and read and talk some more. We're not always known for our action. In this moment, when we're living in a world of division, of increasing income inequality, racism, sexism, ableism, transphobia, homophobia, where our democracy and our very planet are in peril, this is no time to remain passive and just see what happens. This is not the time to focus only on the words. It's time to act. Our former UUA president, Susan Frederick Gray, said in 2018, "This is no time for a casual faith." And it was true then, and it's even more true now. It's my conviction that our faith's legacy could be that beloved community that Martin Luther King held up as the end result of a world in which justice is served for all people. Beloved community, a society in which people's basic needs for food, shelter, healthcare, and love are met. A society in which people can move from surviving to thriving. Now, we're pretty great, we UUs, but we are not going to do this alone, right? Not as individuals, not as congregations, or even one denomination. It requires creating partnerships with communities with people of all faiths and no faith. So I ask you, my dear fellow Unitarian Universalists, what are you willing to commit to in order to leave a beloved community as our legacy? What actions are you taking or will you take to build the beloved community, and what can you commit to right now? Perhaps your legacy could be to help build organizations and institutions dedicated to making the world a better place for all, including our denomination and this congregation. And if you have financial abundance, maybe that's the way you do it. Maybe you give your money to support that kind of work. But maybe you have more time than money, and your legacy might be in volunteer time. And if you have neither an abundance of time or an abundance of money, your legacy can be built in your daily interactions with the people around you. All of us can, and indeed we must, take responsibility for healing the cruelty done to us and the unjust world we've inherited so that we don't pass it along to the next generations. There is a quote that I have for a long time had printed and framed in my office. And when I printed it, I thought it was written by Ralph Waldo Emerson, but in the years since, I've come to learn that the passage was actually written by a white woman in Kansas named Bessie Anderson Stanley in 1904 for a contest in a magazine. This won the contest, and she won $250 as a prize, and she paid off her mortgage with that money. Times have changed. But this passage still speaks to me, and to the small ways that I hope my presence on this earth has made it a better place for those who will follow. I'm going to read it with Bessie's original language and trust that you'll turn on your translator. If it were written nowadays, we would encourage Bessie to be a little more inclusive in her language. But here's what she wrote. It's called Success. He has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has enjoyed the trust of pure women, no comment, the respect of intelligent men, and the love of little children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who has left the world better than he found it, whether by an improved poppy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has always looked for the best in others and given them the best he had, whose life was an inspiration and whose memory is a benediction. If we, individuals, congregations, denominations, societies, want to be known after we're gone for our legacy of building the beloved community, if we want to step out of that toxic river of cruelty that comes to us personally, generationally, societally, and begin the work of healing the world, it's time to act. Faith, our faith, calls us to this work. Hope for the future calls us to this work. Love, the love we have for ourselves, the earth, and one another, calls us to this work. Life itself calls us. May our legacy be one we can be proud of. Amen, and may it be so. Let's sing, coincidentally, a song called Life Calls Us On. You rise in body or in spirit, and we will sing together. call us onward out into the outer world. And now may you go from here, knowing that you are whole and holy and worthy of love and belonging. And may you go from here and spread that news to our hurting and troubled world, that each of us is whole and holy and worthy of love and belonging. Amen. We'll extinguish our chalice, yes? Please say with me the words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment.